Hello and welcome to Wednesday Warfare, where I review NXT and AEW Dynamite back-to-back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Let's begin right away with the NXT side of things. The show begins with a match between Finn Balor and Trent Seven of Mustache Mountain. The match happens because the night before, apparently Finn attacked Trent in the parking lot, so this match is made in response to that. And it begins right from the get-go as Finn drop kicks Trent as he's doing his kind of slow roll under the bottom rope onto the outside. It's a very hard-hitting bout, and Trent takes a lot of scary-looking bumps throughout the course of this matchup to really make Finn look like a killer here. It ends with Finn hits the dropkick in the corner, the coup de grace 1916, to win pretty decisively in the end, and then he yells at Johnny Gargano on the hard cam as well. So yeah, great opening match. We get a Broserweights promo backstage talking about the Dusty Classic Finals, and it's pretty entertaining stuff because it's the contrast of styles where Riddle's super lighthearted, he's kind of a funny guy, and Pete Dunne is super serious, he's very straight-laced. I mean, we've seen that kind of contrast before in wrestling, but this is great stuff. The whole promo ends when Riddle says, when we win the trophy, Pete Dunne's going to show everyone why he's the life of the party. And it's great, just deadpan, look of disdain on Dunn's face when Riddle says that. Just great stuff, great chemistry with these guys. We get an ominous little promo here. We get these 5 glowing rings in the dark, and 3 of the rings have numbers in them. 5, 20, and 2, and I can't make heads or tails of what the hell's going on. Later in the night, though, we see the rings show up again, and then the 3 rings with numbers move around to reveal the date of next week's NXT, February 5th, and so whatever these rings mean, that's what the answer is going to be, I guess. We'll find out. After a Battle Royal elimination and a really bad-looking backstage brawl in the aftermath, we have this match coming up next. Shotzi Blackheart taking on Dianna Perazzo, and all the points and the thumbs up in the world go to Shotzi making her entrance in her little tank. This is something she had for a lot of shows in the indies near the tail end before she got signed, so I'm really glad to see they kept that going. They let her keep the tank for her entrance here. Such a cool look, and it instantly just gets over and sets her apart from everyone else, as if her appearance alone doesn't set her apart. The tank entrance is just magnificent. This is a good match, albeit a brief one. Shotzi wins with a senton for the top rope, and that's pretty much that. And yeah, let's keep the tank going because that is over. Keith Lee shows up to bask in his own glory. He talks about how he won the North American Championship last week. Doesn't get too far in his promo though when Damien Priest interrupts, and he holds his microphone in a very natural, organic way, saying he basically wants a shot at the North American Championship. Dominic Djokovic shows up next, calls Damien a bootleg Marilyn Manson, which I don't know about that. But anyway, Keith is great because I'm going to leave y'all to yourself. You guys hash this out yourselves. He leaves, and then we have a match between Djokovic and Priest. And, they bust out a crucifix bomb on the apron in the first, minute of the match. Psychology. Be that as it may, really fun match because, they set the tone right away with a move like that. They don't go back to headlocks pretty much after that one. And it's just very high impact, big-ass move, big-ass move. I always like big guys, doing crazy stuff in the ring like that. So this match was definitely ticked all the boxes for that. Scary Poison Rana to Dominic by Damien off the top rope as well. But Dominic is able to win with Feast Your Eyes. Like I said, just a great knockdown, drag-out kind of match with 2 big guys, and puts Djokovic in serious contention for Keith Lee's championship, which is great because they have the history already. Before the break, we go to a Tommaso Ciampa promo where he says he wants to make Adam Cole pick him as his opponent for TakeOver Portland in the championship match. We come back from commercial break, and then we see all 3 members of the Undisputed Era who aren't Adam Cole laid out backstage, and Ciampa emerges standing over them. He beat them up. He goes to the ring, and he brings a table into the ring, spray paints a big yellow X onto it, and calls out Cole. Adam shows up and talks some trash, and then Ciampa with a really strong promo, basically reiterating what he's been saying already. I'm going to take my life back. I'm going to take Goldie back. I never lost the belt, what have you. Then William Regal shows up. He's got the contract in hand saying, Adam Cole's already signed this thing, so I'm going to have you sign it now. Cole takes the contract and says he wants to deliver it to Ciampa himself. He gets in the ring, strikes first, the microphone shot to the dome, but Ciampa ultimately wins the day with this one because he powerbombs Cole through the table and everything. X marks the spot. He signs the contract and then wipes the blood on his head off with the contract. Very powerful moment here. And again, I think Ciampa's been looking great since his return. I think that it's been a kind of a gradual build. He showed up before Survivor Series, and they've been kind of taking their time reintroducing Ciampa and really justifying him being in a title picture again. Obviously, he's deserved it in the context of kayfabe because he never lost the belt, but now he's finally getting his like solo shot with Adam Cole. And after all the wars they've had too, and in war games and everything like that, this is just more of Ciampa adding fuel to the fire and looking really strong here. Former best friends turned bitter rivals as Dakota Kai takes on Tegan Nox. The match actually begins when Tegan throws her knee brace at Dakota's head, and this match goes all over the place. In the outside, in the crowd, what have you. A surprisingly short match given the amount of heat and build-up this match has actually had. It ends when Dakota grabs a chair on the outside, but Candice LeRae shows up, takes the chair out of Dakota's hands, back in the ring, and Tegan hits Dakota with the knee brace again. Shiniest wizard to win. So a lot of retribution here for Tegan. I'd be very surprised if this were the last match or the blow-off in their encounter. He seems to have at least a couple more matches in them, I would think, with a feud like this. And I think this is the only match they've actually had since the breakup. And also, kind of a little side note here, I think it's interesting, Candice LeRae not only was involved in the DIY breakup angle, is also now involved in what I guess you could argue is the female equivalent of the DIY breakup. So that's pretty interesting. Chelsea Green, who's accompanied by Robert Stone, making her NXT singles debut on Wednesday against Kayden Carter. And the story here, Chelsea has a lot of momentum, pretty much doing the lion's share of the work of the matchup, but she spends too much time grandstanding and a hot dogging as Kayden rolls her up with a small package for the upset victory. It's Kayden's first win on NXT, so big deal for her. I thought that when a wrestler gets a manager, they're supposed to win more, but so far we haven't really gotten that with Chelsea Green and the whole Robert Stone experience. A side note, I've noticed here, I saw some people chatting about this online as well. There were 3 women's matches on this show, but I don't think any one of them went more than 5 minutes long. And that seems to me, it kind of undercuts the whole spirit of what the whole women's evolution was about. To give women more TV time, but also give them more substantial matches. So I guess, can you really have both though? Would you rather have a bunch of shorter yet competent matches with the women, or would you have like fewer matches but longer for the ladies? And that way though, if it's like one long match for the ladies, you only have 2 or maybe 3 or 4 ladies to showcase when you have several others on, who are waiting in the wings. Whereas if you've got 3 shorter singles matches, more women are on display. So what do you think about that with the women's matches? Do you want several shorter ones or 1 to 2 longer ones? Let me know in the comments. Main event time, it is the Dusty Classic Finals as the Broserweights, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, take on James Drake and Zach Gibson, the Grizzled Young Veterans. The winners will face the Undisputed Era for the tag titles at TakeOver Portland. And this match was insane, folks. Me trying to give you like a blow-by-blow account, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it justice. But this was a TakeOver quality matchup between these two teams. All 4 guys taking some pretty ridiculous risks in the matchup. Very hard-hitting action. In the end, the Broserweights win the tournament after a fireman's carry into a kick by Dunn. So Dunn and Riddle win. They celebrate with the trophy. They get pyro in the ring, which is pretty cool. But yeah, fantastic main event. Way to close it out. It's kind of sad though. I feel like the Dusty Tag Team Classic, that first year it was there, boy, they made a real big deal out of that. And like every subsequent year, it's like it's kind of got a little less and less significant. Like the Dusty Tag Team Classic was its own storyline, and now this is just like it's a setup for a title match at a takeover, which is not adjacent to a Big 4 pay-per-view. So I don't know how to feel about that. I feel the Dusty Classic should have stayed kind of its own thing, like its own major thing, but it makes maybe nothing like that's meant to last forever in terms of prominence. But that's just my takeaway with the Dusty Classic this year. Well, it's not on the Jericho cruise anymore, but this week's AEW begins with Jon Moxley rocking a sweet-ass eye patch as he makes his way to the ring, cuts a promo on Chris Jericho saying, at least I can look at myself in the mirror and live with a code of honor, live with self-respect and everything, calls Jericho insecure, calls him a bully, and says that at Revolution, it's not going to be, the kind of person I am, it's the kind of person you aren't. He calls out Jericho for a beating. Le Champion shows up, and the fans in attendance are all singing the theme song, which is pretty rad, I think. Nice little growing trend there. Jericho disses the crowd and references Moxley's mother, and Jericho then brings out the rest of the inner circle, and Moxley's like, it's not just 5-on-1, it's 5 versus me and everyone in Ohio here, because the home state boy. It's a huge reaction, by the way, when he does his promo and whatnot. So then Jericho says, oh, well, we're going to have these other guys at Proud and Powerful brought up, these 5 nameless goons, and they show up to be 10-on-1. Moxley runs in headlong and starts attacking people. Big pull apart brawl, and Moxley ends up standing tall after getting a few people knocked out with some DDTs on the floor. This is a great segment opening wise. I think Moxley did a great job with a promo, a very passionate promo here. He's very eloquent, but he's just to the point, and it just nails it. And then the stuff with him in the inner circle and everything, him just again taking on 10 dudes at once and living to tell the tale, standing tall at the end, makes Moxley very strong. We get a very interesting little cutaway with MJF and Wardlow going into a butcher shop, approaching the Butcher and the Blade, who are in their white apron getups and everything, cutting meat like you do. And so he hands them this very thick envelope with the name Young Bucks written on it, and a cool little transition because they're wearing the butcher outfits, and then when they hand them the envelope, it cuts to this other angle where they're holding it, and it pans out to reveal, oh, they've transformed and they're in their gimmick now. I thought it was pretty cool. Next matchup, it's basically MJF has paid Butcher and Blade and Bunny to exact revenge on the Young Bucks for when they threw MJF in the pool on the boat last week. This match was a lot of fun to watch. It ends when the Young Bucks hit the Meltzer driver on the Blade to win. Then afterward, the heels beat down the Bucks, and out comes Kenny Omega. And then, late to the party, out comes Adam Cole with a beer in his hand. He gets on the apron, tells Matt Jackson to hold his beer. He hits the buckshot lariat, then walks right back out, grabs the beer, drinks it, and leaves. And that was pretty much it. So I didn't need to mention this last week on Wednesday Warfare, but I do want to touch on this now. I am loving the evolution of Adam Page's character here, because he's doing the whole kind of like, the loner thing. He's kind of doing his own, thing. He kind of resents being with the rest of the elite because he's kind of the bastard of the group, the black sheep of the group, it seems. And just a slow descent into just kind of being more insulated. And eventually it's going to blow up, and you don't know when it's going to come, but it's, the fact that they are the champions now and the Bucks aren't, and he's kind of rubbing their face in it, makes it very interesting. So I'm very excited to see where more of Page's individualism will take him, but yeah, I'm loving the evolution. Well, slowly but surely, Nyla Rose has regained some prominence in the AEW women's division as of late. She has won 5 of her last 6 matches, and she's now the #1 contender to Riho's women's championship, and that factoid was a bit of a shock to me. Anyway, she takes on Big Swole here, and it's a classic, big versus little matchup, and the whole story is Swole's trying to, stick and move, avoid Nyla where she can, and use her speed to take out Nyla. Ultimately, though, Rose wins with a spear and a beast bomb to win. Pretty good match. Kip Sabian taking on Cody next, and the big story with this is the Penelope Ford is causing constant problems at ringside, and Arn Anderson is getting fed up with it. Like, she's grabbing Cody's weight belt, she throws her shoe into the ring to distract the referee from a 3 count and everything. Arn gets involved, and then he shoves the referee, which gets him ejected. There's a moment after Arn's ejection where for Kip and Penelope take out Cody together, and they go in for a kiss over the barricade, and then in pops Joey Janela, who's right in between them, so he gets kissed on both ends, which is a pretty hilarious sight, and then he gives Kip the finger and he runs off. The match ends when Cody hits a Cody Cutter and 3 consecutive crossroads to win, because he's getting all fired up about the whole MJF feud. He's taking his 10 lashes next week on Dynamite as part of the whole stipulations to meet MJF at Revolution, and so yeah, this was a fun match. I mean, the story, Penelope almost got a little excessive, but the story was her getting the comeuppance and everything, and then Cody winning in such decisive fashion, and I popped big for Janelle's little cameo. Poor Tony Schiavone's got to interview Dr. Britt Baker once again. This time it takes place on the stage, and they actually reference last week's promo on the boat where Britt was talking, and then JR had to cut her off and toss to commercial break. She actually acknowledges that and gets mad and berates JR on the stage and takes a shot at him for, getting people's names wrong on a semi-regular basis on commentary. She instantly diagnoses Tony with gingivitis, and then she takes one shot at the Cleveland Browns saying, "You finally have a Baker that you can trust," and everything. So I think it was obviously, because we actually heard the entire promo this time, I think it was a much better promo by Britt, and I think she wasn't winded from a match, so that also played into it being better this time. Show more of the heel personality. I like the idea of a heel Britt Baker and everything. I think just last week's promo was a little flat for me. This one was much better delivered. It was stronger. Hopefully they can build off this. We go backstage. We see the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega being interviewed. Hangman Page walks in with, "Oh, I got my nameplate for my belt yesterday. Here are your guys' plates if and when you win the championships. See ya." And he leaves, and so there's more awkward tension between the Bucks and Kenny, who's got to play peacemaker. And then Omega says, "I actually got to sign up for an 8-man tag team match next week where it's the 4 of us versus the Butcher and the Blade in a tag team of their choosing. We later find out it's the Lucha Brothers, but that should be a really good match. SCU takes on the Hybrid 2. SCU are wearing their Kobe Bryant jerseys to the ring before the matchup. The match itself, I wasn't really that into. I mean, for me, it didn't really pick up until like the hot tag when things get really exciting. But for me, for whatever reason, I just wasn't really vibing with what we saw so far in that matchup. But it ends with an SCU later to Angelico for SCU to get the win, get a little bit of heat back after losing their championships on the boat last week. Then on the screen, we see the Dark Order, and Evil Uno says to Chris Daniels, the Exalted One's most displeased, and he wants to start beating up your friends in SCU. And they blip out of the shot, and then Daniels, he's game for a fight and everything. I've heard some people theorize that this angle with the Dark Order targeting Christopher Daniels could possibly lead to a revival or a resurgence to his like darker fallen angel character down the line. Either he has to become evil to fight evil, or he joins it and becomes more dark side. What do you think? What do you think about the potential of that? Do you want to see the fallen angel in his original incarnation return and being tied in with the Dark Order in some way? Let me know. We get a pre-tape promo by Pac somewhere on this like cold-looking set of stairs in the middle of the night, so in black and white and everything. I just feel that Pac's got to be freezing his balls off in those trunks and just nothing else out there in what looks to be very cold weather. Anyway, he talks about Moxley, takes a shot at him, and says he's going to be coming for Kenny Omega's blood next week. And on to our main event, six-man tag as Private Party and Darby Allin take on Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz. I popped early on in this matchup when Private Party were mocking Ortiz's like crouching tiger kind of stance that he does a lot in his matches. Near the end of the match, there's a lot of confusion over who the legal man is, which is a recurring problem in AEW. The announcer's going, Darby's the legal man, right? Is Darby legal? Is he the legal man here? Yes, he's the legal man at this point. Anyway, he does a coffin drop on a Jake Hager on the outside as well at one point. Judas Effect on Isaiah Cassidy by Jericho, so he wins for the Inner Circle. After the match, the whole dang circle run in and start beating up the baby faces. Sammy Guevara like grabs Darby's skateboard, does the kind of the guitar gimmick with it, and they jam it into Darby's throat. And then like in the middle of this very serious kind of like injury causing thing with the jam in the throat, you see Santana on the skateboard like wobbling on it. It's like, oh man, you're really undercutting the severity of that kind of injury. Jon Moxley shows up and clears house with the bat. Again, he stands tall at the end. Again, Moxley looking very strong. Bookended with some very strong Moxley there in his home state of Cleveland, looking very good against Le Champion and just building more toward their match at Revolution. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, NXT or AEW Dynamite. And this week my choice is NXT. I think from wall to wall, it was a much more exciting show for the week. It had great wrestling from start to finish. My one real knock with NXT this week was just like the fact that the women's matches were all so strangely short. Even the one match that actually had some heat behind it in Knox versus Kai. With AEW, there was something about the show I specifically didn't like or disapproved of. There was just, like it just wasn't as exciting to me. There was no wow factor with Dynamite this week as opposed to NXT, where not only was the action really top notch and really high impact and high energy, there were actually some moments of levity that I enjoyed, and there were some other promos I thought were great. So I think they really found a really strong balance this week on NXT. Like I said, AEW, not a terrible show, but just not one that was worth writing home about. But here I am talking about it in a YouTube video, so there you go. But let me know what you thought about NXT and AEW this week in the comment section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.